You're getting way ahead of things. You're looking into January and February.
Well, no, that's basically January. That starts December 31st.
We're 3 weeks away from this.
From December 31st through January 10th, they play 7 road games in 11 or 12 days.
Fantastic.
That's crazy.
That's 3 weeks away. I care more so about what affects the Spurs right now. What affects the Spurs right now, which we haven't talked about to this point, is the fact that the Indiana Pacers are about to go full-on fire sale, and they have somebody that I truly, truly want.
Everyone talking about Domantas Sabonis.
Nope.
I want Miles Turner.
I want me some Miles. That is the one singular piece that the San Antonio Spurs are missing. A bouncy, athletic big that can switch on anything and spreads the floor.
Yeah, at this point, I would say hold on to Primo, hold on to DeJounte, and tell every team you can take 2 first-rounders and any 2 players you want at that point. Because if they want Keldon, do it.
Oh.
If they want Derek White, do it. If they want Jakob, do it.
I do Derek, I do Lonnie, I do a couple firsts, like whatever it takes to get me Miles Turner in the building. I still... Keldon, that's a tough swallow for me.
It's tough, but it's replaceable. I mean, Doug McDermott can do a lot of what Keldon does and get you a lot of the same production. And it's just one of those things where you can find another Keldon Johnson. You can find it's like the movie Moneyball, right?
You can find another Keldon, really?
Yeah, I can find 14 points a game.
Sure, but we're talking about year 3 of his development. He's a little bit further along than what Kawhi was in year 3 of his development.
It's one of those things that what is his ceiling? It's kind of hard to say. Because again,
this summer we were talking about he's untradeable because of his ceiling. And this was 3 months ago.
I know, but man, I'm prisoner in the moment when it comes to this.
But don't be.
I mean, I look at it this way. I want his game to develop better offensively. Right now, that whole bull in the China shop thing that he does, I'm tired of it.
Here's the problem, though, and this is something that you might want to go back and listen to on the ESPN or the San Antonio Sports Star audio vault, sasportstar.com, or you can just watch the video on our Facebook or YouTube. It's there. It's also on our Instagram at SA Sports Star. Jason Minix sat down with Bruce Bowen yesterday live, and Bruce talked about Keldon and his development and how he's coming along and his learning to be part that the defenses focus on and adjusting to that and what he's seeing and the steps in the development. And you're trying to rush past that development that we allowed Kawhi to develop on his own, slowly, one by one. You're this piece, you're that piece. Now you're the piece. How are you handling multiple people running at you now? And we're not allowed. We're less than 2 months into the season.
There is a price for every player. There is a price.
So let's look at it this way. Aaron Gordon was got for Wendell Carter. And Wendell Carter was an important piece of. Wait, let me backtrack on that. Aaron Gordon was actually got for Gary Harris, and Nikola Vucevic rather was gotten for Wendell Carter. So you have to give away a rotation player. And in this particular case, the Pacers are not looking to get a 27-year-old like Derek White. So you're probably looking at the 23 and younger crowd within the San Antonio Spurs. If they're to get a good player out of it, the Spurs could flip it the other way and think, okay, let's top 7 protect this first-round pick, because I don't think 8, 9, 11 again are really going to change next year's roster. If you get a top 7 pick, great. But what is another late lottery pick going to do versus getting a Miles Turner?
I would flip that. I would go even higher in the predictions. I'd do top 3 or 5 and let them have the possibility of an even higher pick, because adding Miles Turner, I do not believe that's where the San Antonio Spurs will pick, no matter what.
So no. My point is the Spurs will get anything. Okay, maybe top 5 would work, but that's fine with me. I guess I get. But the Spurs are probably one of the few teams that can make a run legitimately at Miles Turner. But are they also willing to say, okay, now we're bringing in Miles Turner? And I think they should, because they need a stretch 4. They haven't really had one since Davis left.
I love that Karl's in this conversation, because that whenever you see on Twitter these, fake trade proposal that people have out there saying
It's very annoying.
yeah,
Yes.
Lonnie Walker. You know what? If we don't want Lonnie Walker for some reason, chances are they don't either. They want to have a piece. And as you said, 23 and under, who's the one piece that they would want to get? Probably Keldon, right?
Keldon, Vassell, Primo, those are all lottery type
Okay,
talents.
so if given the choice, if given the choice for Miles Turner, because you described him,
I know because you're prisoner of the moment where you're going.
You described him during the break as you described Miles Turner as marketing with defense.
Yeah, and I think that he's looking to maybe be an increased offensive role. He just wrote, he worked on an article with The Athletic to say that he wants to have a bigger offensive role. So, yeah, he might be somebody who shoots 7 3-pointers a game wherever he ends up going.
Okay, so I'm going to say thumbs up, thumbs down. Okay, let's say first round draft pick and a Derek White, because you have to match salaries for the most part. Let's say it's Derek White, Keldon, and a first round draft pick. Yes or no?
Going back to my point, they don't want Derek White.
Here's my counter proposal. And you got to take this with a grain of salt, because imagine what I'm giving up to do this. 2 first round picks, top 3 protect one of them, maybe both. And Thad Young and Lonnie Walker, because you're matching salaries, but you're giving them 2 expiring contracts, which allows them to open up cap space to them, therefore do what they want with it.
Yeah, so we're taking a look at Miles Turner's salary here. He's at $20 million a year.
That would be matched. The numbers run where Thad and Lonnie will work,
because you're talking about 14 and what, 4.
Yeah, when it comes down to it, I think the Spurs are probably interested in maximizing the Derek White and DeJounte Murray backcourt. And unfortunately, to get a player that best complements those 2 guys, you're going to have to give up one of the assets that is a proven commodity in these 25 and younger crowd that the Spurs have right now. And probably a first or a second. How many firsts? Maybe
2 firsts.
How many?
And 2 expiring contracts.
How many firsts gets you out of giving up one of your proven asset players?
Well, there you go. You know, it'd be one of those things where, do you want to keep this year's first rounder, or would you rather deal out the 2025 from Chicago? Right.
I would say if you could keep Keldon and Lonnie, or maybe not Lonnie, because Lonnie's an expiring contract, obviously, that the Spurs will have to deal with. But if you could keep Keldon and Devin Vassell and Primo, but you give up 3 first-round picks, including the 2025, picks that we got in the DeMar trade, I think that would be a very steal of a for both directions, because you get 3 picks out of Miles Turner.
In a perfect world, obviously, I would want to keep Keldon. In a perfect world, I'd want to keep Devin Vassell. So I'm not saying that I want to dangle them out there, but if that is what it takes, I think it's worth it for one of those pieces. But we talked about whether Keldon Johnson can be that Kawhi. When I see if there's anybody on this team who could be a Kawhi, I'm looking more at Devin Vassell.
Because you're prisoner of the moment. You just said you were.
No.
But Devin Vassell has a legitimate ceiling that is worth maybe investing in him being your starting 3. Because if you're keeping the Derek and DeJounte backcourt together, then who is going to be that 3? And the current situation is Keldon's sort of become the small ball 4. He's up to 40% shooting from 3 this season. He's worked his way back from a rough start. And I think he sort of plays a modern small ball 4 that works. Yeah. But Miles Turner would also pair very well next to Jakob.
Yes.
And those 1, 2, or 3. So whoever that 3 is, they're probably, I would say the Pacers are looking for a starting caliber young player that already has some miles on him, but he's under 23 years old.
And that's why the drop-off's not that significant. If for some reason it did cost a Keldon, Vassell going in there, you're not going to lose any productivity. You're not.
You prefer to keep him, but you're right. In the perfect world, you probably don't have the chance.
As someone who's had to deal with this as a Rockets fan, dealing with a disgruntled superstar and having to take what you can get in return, I think a couple of firsts, some expiring contracts, and maybe a pick swap, if you throw that in there, I think that can get a deal done. Just because if they want out, they're going to get their way out, and you're not going to get appropriate value. Look at Ben Simmons right now. Has anybody matched what Daryl Morey wants to get for Ben Simmons?
No one's come close to that, because he wanted. He apparently turned down 4 first-round picks and
exactly. So you can want all day long,
Lillard and maybe a first. I don't know.
So you can want all day long. Doesn't mean that's what you're gonna get. And if you're the Pacers, you're eventually just going to take the best deal on the table.
And I think the Spurs can offer the best deal on the table because all of the contenders have given away their first-round picks.
Exactly.
You look at the Drew Holiday trade for the Bucks, the Anthony Davis trade for the Lakers,
especially if you look
George
at this
trade for
year.
the Clippers.
This year, if you deal a pick for this upcoming draft, currently it looks like a great pick. Post Miles Turner might not be so much.
Right. Now, this looks like it struck a nerve on Facebook Live. Rudolph Renee says, I wouldn't give up Jakob. Joseph Rangel says, Karl, can you please mute Mike's mic, please? So, and then Frank says they want Primo, Keldon, Vassell, or Vassell and picks. No to the deal. The thing about it, though, is that if you want to improve your team, you got to give up certain players sometimes, man. It's a business. The Spurs have done this in the past. How did the Spurs get Kawhi Leonard?
George Hill.
George Hill, who was a fan favorite, and the Spurs got rid of him to get that 15th pick to draft. Well, actually, Indiana drafted him, and then they flipped him. But the fact of the matter is, it took that.
But at that point in time, George Hill was more of what Derek White is. We kind of already knew what his ceiling was. He was a fan favorite, but the potential was gone. We kind of knew exactly what George Hill was going to be.
All right, we're going to have to reset all this at 12 o'clock. Okay, on halftime, we'll talk more about this. Let's leave the show with this conversation because this was fun. Got fired up, man.